right, welcome back to Adam's Dirty Garden. Today we're going to go over a couple different, well, 3 different traps that I use in the garden for gophers. Recently the gophers have been overall pretty quiet. There hasn't been much destruction, and then within the past 2 days they've taken 2 pepper plants and an entire tomato plant, and the tomato plant was pretty heartbreaking because it was about 2 feet tall. So all that time, all that effort, and it's just gone within, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes of the gopher eating the plant. So I overplant because I plan for gophers, but at the same time I also want to at least knock down the population. And really over the last 2 months I haven't had any luck getting gophers. I have noticed there's a time of the year, I haven't figured out why, but where they just will not, they're very trap smart. No matter what kind of trap I put in, they seem to evade it. They'll go right around it, they'll sense it, whether it's my scent that's on it or what. I've still got to figure that part out, so still learning all that part. So I'm going to try using a different set of traps that I really don't like to use too much, because it requires that I take up a lot more of the soil that I'm trying not to disturb to set those traps. So I'll cover the 3 traps briefly. I will make this a short video. Bye-bye. Don't say bye-bye at the end. Who knows if I want to use this as another piece and I can't. Ow, bug just bit my ear. So this is the trap I typically don't like to use very much because I have to disturb a lot more soil to get these things set. You've got to dig a hole big enough to get 2 traps set. You don't necessarily have to do this, but it's better to do 2 because you don't know what direction the gopher is going to be coming from. So if you only put it in one side, then what if he comes from the other side? He or she comes from the other side. It's just gonna backfill the hole, dig around the trap, and then figure out that, hey, there's something in my hole that I need to pay attention to. They're very, very trap smart during certain times of year. Other times of year, very dumb. They'll easily go in the traps, no problem getting them at all. I noticed most of the time in the springtime, early summer, they're very trap smart. As we get further into the year, they're very stupid and typically much easier to catch. These ones are very efficient though. When I do use them, I do catch quite a few. Again, I just don't like to use them because I'm trying to disturb my soil as little as possible, and these ones do require that I dig a much bigger hole than all the other traps that I use. But this is the little catch, so I'm going to use this, push it down, and this little lever right here, there's a plate on the inside, a little piece of plastic that's hanging down, so when that gopher either comes in and actuates it or pushes the dirt in and actuates it, that this is gonna hit back. It's gonna get pushed back and cause this lever to release, and then this snare is going to snap up and they'll be stuck inside. I think this is probably the most humane one that I do use because it's pretty quick. There's a lizard over here distracting me. He's doing a bunch of push-ups trying to attract his mate. But this one is very, very quick because once the gopher's in here, this is gonna pull up and it, just kind of smashes them. I can't tell you how long it takes, but I think this is the most humane. The other ones, it's kind of hit and miss depending on how they enter the trap, whether those snares will catch them at the right spot in their body to make it a quick kill. So, and I do like to try to make it as painless as possible, but at the same time I just need to knock down the population at this point. All right, well, I'm going to set these 2 and then we'll go over the next 2 traps that I use. So when trying to figure out my gopher setup, you take any kind of a prod. This is just a piece of random metal that I had laying around from whatever it came from. When you find the hole, you just start plunging this down into the soil until you feel it break through the tunnel, and you'll feel it give really quick. Say maybe it'll drop maybe 2 to 3 inches pretty quick. So you know you've hit a tunnel there. But you don't want to just stop with that first hole. You want to find the direction the tunnel's going. What I've noticed is typically the gopher will have a tunnel that comes up to get whatever it's trying to eat, and somewhere off of that is a T. So you want to find the T. You can put the little snap traps, these little guys, in the opening of just that one hole wherever they ate and give that a shot. And I've had success with that, but it's better to find the area where they've got more of like consider like a little highway, right? Somewhere they travel more often. So that one that's only got the T coming off to where they eat, they're gonna go back into the other hole, plug up the one that they just ate from, and then continue to use that main tunnel as a, you know, their actual more frequently traveled area. So the gopher's already eaten the entire pepper plant. So what I want to try to do is find the hole that is pointing me towards their actual network and then set my traps in that network. So I've already done it. I've prodded the ground. I figured out the direction of the tunnel, so now I'm going to dig my hole. Gotten the hole dug, and this really highlights the exact reason why I don't like to use these traps. So you can see how big my hand is. So this hole is about twice the length of my hand. Disturbed a lot of soil, and then also these are my roots from my fig tree. I'm not too worried about it. There's plenty of roots in this entire area for the fig tree, so it's not going to cause any damage, but it's still something I don't like to do. And then also, when you disturb the soil, we take and cause some damage on our, you know, organisms that are in the soil. This, I now have, you know, potentially killed this earthworm, disturbing the soil. So that's why I don't like to use these traps. The other two versions I like better because they cause way less soil disruption. But I found my main network, 2 holes, go in that direction. The gopher tunneled up right here and got the pepper and just pulled it all the way down, ate the entire plant. It was about that size plant. So that's about 2.5 months of time and effort of babying this thing for the gopher to take it overnight. This is what the traps look like when they're set. We can see there's one trap here with the opening facing that direction. This other trap facing that direction. So hopefully whatever direction the gopher decides to come from, it's going to go into that trap, hit the plate that's going to cause this little lever to come undone, and then make this snare pop up. And then hopefully it's a quick, clean death. What I like to do also with these traps is, as I'm digging them, I will take some of the soil that I've removed and just put a little bit in the trap, just so it seems more tunnel-like. Also maybe help cover my scent a little bit, although gophers have a really, really good sense of smell. But at the same time, I've noticed that if I put a little bit of soil or dirt or something in there, it just kind of helps maybe reduce their awareness of the trap that they're getting ready to go into. So when I come out tomorrow, if any one of these is popped up, then there's a very good chance I have a gopher. I do want to note though, using this kind of a trap and then also the snare trap, this one, the two things, well, the one thing I don't like about either of the traps is that if I don't cover the hole, during this time of year, toads will go into the gopher holes hunting for whatever they're looking to eat, and sometimes get caught in my traps, and I do not like catching toads. So this year I'm going to try to make a really good effort to try to cover the holes so the toads can't get in there and get caught in my traps. Toads are my garden buddies, while the gophers are my garden nemesis. So these traps are set. I put the dirt back on them just a little bit. I do want to be able to see the actuators come up, but I also want these traps to not heat up by hitting the sun and just give anything that gopher that sense of something different. I just want the gopher to come in, maybe see that there's something there, maybe try to push some dirt in and then get grabbed. But try to keep it cool. There are holes on the end of these. So there's a hole right here. You could leave this open because gophers will come check out anytime their hole is open, and either fill it back in or completely abandon that area and block it further down. They don't like entry points into their tunnels because that lets predators come in. So this could potentially be what the gopher thinks is an area a snake's gonna come in to kill it. So I'm gonna try covering these up though, try to make it a natural tunnel for them, and hopefully a gopher comes through tonight and I'll have knocked down at least one of them. So this is another section of the pepper beds, a different pepper bed, but still the gopher took a plant from this area, took the entire plant, same as the other setup. The other traps are set, but I wanted to show kind of what it looks like when you've got your probe and you're trying to find the hole. So I'll go just to where I don't think the hole is, and you see it should go down pretty consistent, right? If I go right here, we should get a bit of a drop right there. So I know the hole is right there, and I found the other two, so I know the tunnel is going this direction. So I'm going to take my shovel and take out this area right here, and then set my 2 snare traps going both directions in that tunnel, because I want to increase my odds of finding what direction the gopher's coming from. And this very well could be the gopher that I also set the trap over in the other bed. So they've got a very extensive network, and because I don't rototill in the garden, those networks stay intact the entire time the garden's around, which I do like because it lets the water get into the soil, provides areas for aeration. So overall, the network of tunnels is good. And gophers, like I mentioned in previous videos, gophers do provide a benefit to the overall ecosystem, but when they're attacking my entire plant and there's just too much damage, we got to knock it down a little bit, scare them straight. I do have a pretty big shovel here, which is kind of overkill for the traps that I am setting. I could use my hori knife, but I really want to get these traps set nice and deep because these gophers have been evading me for far too long. And one frustrating thing is when you dig your hole and you lose the network, that tunnel. Aha, there you are. So sometimes by digging, you'll cause that tunnel to collapse just enough to lose it. But I did pick up on this end. And I'm setting all my soil off to the side pretty carefully because I do want to fill this all back in when I'm done. Again, to try to disturb the soil as little as possible. Gophers are tricky bastards. So I'm just taking my finger, trying to find the other hole, because I did end up making it collapse. And actually, this may have been just a dead-end hole. And in that case, so just by taking my finger and poking the walls. So I found the tunnel. I'm gonna flip this around. So this is the hole that I found. Initially, I thought the tunnel was running this direction. And what I think ended up happening was the gopher came through here and ended up turning, coming up to grab the pepper right up in this area. I got one there. So I think it went right up into this area and then it just backfilled. So this tunnel network, because I took my finger and I poked around the entire wall, I don't find anywhere that gives to let me know that there's another tunnel. Even if you dig your hole to set these traps, even if you collapse the hole, if you just use your finger to poke around a little bit, you'll feel the soft spot and your finger will break through to that spot. So even right here, I can tell that gopher turned up here and I can feel it giving away to go up to where that pepper plant was right up there. So with this one, I'm just gonna call it. I'm gonna leave this hole open and put my trap as deep as I can into that hole. And hopefully with that air rush going through, that gopher is going to come to investigate and get caught in my trap. This is the second type of trap I use. This one is very efficient, but the thing I don't like about it is it's efficient for me to kill them, but it's not necessarily all that quick. It depends on how the gopher gets caught and really where the gopher gets caught. I've had them get caught in their back legs. I pull the gopher out and they're still alive, so I have to finish them off. So again, effective, but not necessarily quick. I'd say the majority of the time they are pretty quick, but they're also kind of the grossest because they've got these little pointy barbs on the end that, depending on how they hit the gopher, will, you know, kind of determine how quick that death is, because they'll actually pinch inside the gopher. So again, that other trap that I set previously, I like those better because it's just got a wire, basically just a noose that pulls that gopher up and essentially strangles it. This one pinches them, and oftentimes it'll snag them. And this is also the one that catches toads, which I really don't like catching toads. So to set these, this is your actuator, or your lever right here. This is the actuator. So you just take this and get it to loop under this bar, and you just push down. That opens your little snare part up, so it's now set open. And then this has little fittings under it where this actuator will rest. So when that gopher comes along and hits that, it'll pinch them. So again, very effective. It's just, I wouldn't say the most humane, but it does get the job done. And right now, I got to get the job done. You do want to attach a wire to it, because the gopher, if you don't fully get them, they will pack your trap off, and they can pack it quite a ways. And then you also want to anchor it down. I use little construction flags, so it doesn't take much to hold them in place. And this also lets me know where I have traps set. So I'll get it set, and we'll move on to the next trap. This string used to be tied to a tomato to get it to grow up to where I'm eventually going to run my wire to support it. There's no longer a tomato attached because the gopher ate it. So this is the third trap that I like to use. Very, very effective. Doesn't get a lot of toads. Actually, I've never caught a single toad in these ones because it keeps the holes closed. It just plunges down into the top of their tunnel and snares them up. So similar to the first trap that I set, where it's got the barrel and the wire that pulls it up, this one is very similar. Ooh. I wonder if they caught that on video. Damn it, Lemmy. Jeez. So this is the little, we'll call it a dangle, that's gonna set this trap off. So when the gopher comes through and hits that, I mean, eventually, there we go. Ooh, that was surprising. And it's got a yellow indicator to let you know when the trap has gone off. So you don't have to disturb it or anything. If the trap isn't showing the yellow, you know nothing's in it. The gophers are smart to these now, though. They have not been, I have not caught a single gopher in this trap this season. It's called a Gopher Hawk. This is not an endorsement, but they're pretty damn good. So, and to set these, super easy. So once you find your hole, and I'll go over that here in just a second, you just push it. So you plunge this into the hole until it bottoms out. And then you pull this black part up while pushing the top down. It's going to extend out that snare part, and then it locks in place. And then again, this little wire right here is the trigger. So the thing with this, though, is you have to make sure it's going the right direction. So there's 3 supports on this, and I noticed I need to mess with that a little bit. It needs to be turned differently. But you want the gopher to enter from this side, which is the side that's got the marking on it. So when you find the tunnel, this trap specifically, you need to make sure you find the direction of the tunnel before you put it in, because you need one facing one direction, the other one facing the other direction, and you have to make sure that this side, the one without the wire running through it, is facing the direction the gopher may be coming from, so that when it comes through, it hits this little dangle thingy and then eventually goes off. And then bye-bye, gopher. Hasta la vista, gopher. So my favorite trap to use, I think it's the most humane, gets them right in the head, so it's very, very quick, chokes them out very quick. Not that I'm advocating that I like choking out gophers or anything, but this is by far the most effective. When you pull them out of the ground and they're not set off, you can set them off pretty easily just by giving them a little pop, and they'll close up, and then you can set them off wherever you're set up again. When you buy the Gopher Hawk, the first set you buy, you want to get the one that's got the little hole finder and then the hole setter. So the hole finder is just another prod. Similar to what I showed previously, you just poke around where around the hole that they've gone through and find their main tunnel network. So that's all this is. And then the other piece is the one that you use when you find the direction of the tunnel. You plunge this into the ground on either side, and that gives you the area where you're going to set your trap. And then you just poke this thing in. Again, this would be going the direction you think the tunnel's heading, and then the other one would face the opposite direction of the direction of the tunnel it's going, depending on what side the gopher's on. It's not going to care as long as it dies. So it's very simple to set up. The hardest part is for me to find the actual direction of the tunnel, because the gopher network has become so extensive in my garden, because I don't till, I don't destroy the tunnels, and I also use a lot of compost, and I broad fork, so I'll have certain areas that are already broken up and it feels like I found the tunnel and then there's just nothing there. But I definitely recommend these, but you've got to get a few different traps, because the gophers will learn your traps. So change it up and then hopefully you get them. The last trap that I want to cover is this setup. I have not had any luck, and I think the only reason I have not had luck with this version of a trap is because they come in different sizes. This one is probably for about a 3-inch hole. I need to get the one for about 1.5 to 2-inch hole. So these ones are typically too big for me to actually set. So I may try these if I don't get any luck with the other 3 versions that I have, which typically I do. That's why I haven't pursued getting different versions of this one. So it's a very, very big trap, but it is also set up to be very, very effective. I would point out though, another thing I don't like is how big the hole you need to dig to get this thing set. So a lot of the gopher tunnels aren't just this straight. So you would have to dig out the hole to find an area where you can get this thing in deep enough to where this is probably butted up against the tunnel wall. And this is sitting in the big area that you dug out, while still placing another one on this side. So you're looking at an area maybe almost 2 feet long to be able to place these. For the actual trap itself, you're looking at maybe about a foot. But to get this into the tunnel deep enough, you're gonna have to dig a fairly decent sized hole. So myself, again, I've had luck with the gopher trap, or the gopher hawk, the snare traps, your typical ones you might find at Home Depot, and then the snare with that wire that comes up through the little tunnel thing. These ones are also a little more intricate to set, so you see there's a lot more going on there. But the overall idea is that this piece, Argos found his way in. Good job, Argos. This piece is similar to the other snare trap that I showed previously, is that when this trigger is actuated, that this is going to pinch the gopher, right? So, boonk, right? So this is the gopher. Somewhere in there is gopher stuff. But to set this thing is, again, a little intricate. So you've got different little wire doohickeys hanging off here, but it's a very, very good setup. Again, the only reason I have not decided to use this one too much is that it just takes so much hole that you have to dig to even get it into the holes. And then also the sizes, I got the wrong sizes initially, so I may end up trying to get the other version of it, which is just smaller, maybe have different options. This would probably be good for like a squirrel hole. But you take this right here, this side of it, you see there's the spring right there, and you pull it down, and it's got a lot of weight to it. So you pull it down, you take the lever on the outside and loop it over and use it to push it down. Now with that, you're gonna have the other one come across, so this one's actually holding it down. So now it's set, right? But I haven't fully set the trap yet. The spring is causing the tension to keep the snare part open. This one is holding down the part that's tensioning the spring, and then your actual actuator, the piece that's gonna move, slide in and out, you pull it all the way forward, and then that puts it in line right there to then allow the tension of this piece of metal pushing up on that one, so that when this is actuated, it's going to slide away on top of this piece that'll allow that to lift up, allow this one to lift up, and allow this to detension, and kill the gopher. Complicated, right? Not really, but there's a lot more moving pieces to this one than the other 3 versions I showed. But again, so you got your little gopher there, boop, 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 having fun, having fun. I'm loving eating Adam's dirty garden's tomatoes and peppers and destroying all of his hard work. Oh no! No! This is terrible. So he's dead. So I'll probably get different sizes of this. Hope you enjoyed. I know I haven't described the overall gopher wars because the gopher wars went pretty quiet. I did do an initial little video of me trying to trap them. Nothing happened from that, and now they're eating an entire tomato plant that was about 24 inches tall, 2 pepper plants. If they eat all my other stuff, I really don't care. I had them eating my beans. I've got a lot of beans. Beans are easy, beans are quick. I don't really care. If they're eating my flowers, that's the best thing I want them to eat. But when they start taking out my major plants, my big crops, I've got to thin the population. And hopefully we're entering that period of time where the gophers have started to dumb up. And they'll start going in my traps, and I can thin the herd, the flock, the murder. I don't know what you call a flock of gophers. Flock of gophers. Probably a pretty good 80s band. So, well, hope you enjoyed. Always stay dirty, you dirty learners. Toodles, hasta luego, hasta la vista, auf Wiedersehen, and all the other salutations. Bye-bye.